I got for selling me clothes, tuppence for selling me blanket. If ever I lives for the soldier again, devil shall be me sergeant.
Right, good morning, ladies and gents. Tightwad here, making up a few hammock seats or bushcraft chairs for people that have done me a good turn, and that's via request. I'm going to do a short how-to video. Seriously folks, there's a lot of people turning into solar operas. One, because you either can't get the thing you want, or two, it's just cheaper to do it yourself. And you know, it is, I'm not going to say it's fun, but it's just actually quite you know, nice to say, you know, I built that. So I'm going to quick tutorial, bushcraft seat that, you know, can turn into a seat hammock. The easiest way to do it. This is an ideal cheap first project for you to do on a sewing machine, hence why I'm sticking it on there. I may have done this film before, early days, I don't know. But ladies and gents, doesn't have to be DPM, but what it is nice of is ripstop material. I'll show you the ripstop when I come in closer on the next part I've done. But literally, it's, when you get your material, make sure it's 150 wide, okay? Don't worry about the length for the moment, but 150 wide. Don't get 120 and stuff. Don't get caught out of that. Most material comes in, you know, 1.5 metres wide. Obviously, when you're looking about for your material, make sure you do that. This was some other result on a little visit to Clacton, little haberdashery shop. Boom, found this in the corner. So that's it, literally. And the length you want, I've got 3 metres. I'm going to be doing 3, sewing them up for people. One for a lad who takes his boy out in the into the forest, and that little present for him, and a couple of other people that have you know, sorted me out with a bit of kit. But literally, so it's 3 metres, or that's what I got. So I'll get 3 seats out of it. So it's 150 wide by 1 metre in length. Okay, and that's all it needs to be. One metre. Remember, it's a seat. It's not a hammock. So it doesn't need to be too wide. On that, I'll bring you back in a sec because I'll show you the material and how I hem the edges. I've turned it over to the reverse side there. Hopefully you can see that it's got the very, very small squares in it. That makes it ripstop material. I always prefer to use this. You can use 2, 3 or 4 ounce nylon, but I've used one of these extensively. This same material never let me down, you know, and it obviously with me passes the fat bloke test. But that's what I call ripstop material. Doesn't strictly have to be that, but that's just what I like to use and I've always used, ladies and gents. So hopefully that shows you what ripstop means if you don't know it. Alright, here's one I prepared earlier. Remember I said it's going to be from top to bottom 150 and 1 metre across. Okay, now down the metre sides, all I've done is literally turned that corner over. I've used a zigzag stitch and then gone down with a normal straight stitch, and you could just use your normal cottons for that because that's not going to be a stress line. I will change over now once I've done this all the way round, before I start sewing loops in, using some proper strong Goodsman cotton, and I'll show you what cotton I use. It's not let me down as yet. So that's the 2 sides of it. Remember, that's going to be the top, that's going to be the bottom, so it's 150 this way and 1 metre across. Okay, and as we come round to this side, this is going to be the top and the bottom, both exactly the same, so I'm only going to show you one. Again, with just your normal cotton, nothing wrong. I've just turned that over. You can cut that piece off, okay, if you needed to. Remember, this is 150 that way and 1 metre that way. And all I've just done is run a stitch line down there, because the next time you see this will be the top end. So I'm going to turn it over once and turn it over twice, okay, and then that will be the channel. I'm going to zigzag stitch all the way down here. That will be the channel. You can, if you want, just put 25mm webbing through here, paracord through here. I always like to, on the top end, put a strip of 25mm webbing and sew that up nice and taut, and then put my paracord to the webbing, which will become apparent as we go along. But that's the next sewing I'm going to do. And on the bottom, here you've got to imagine now, if you're going to use it as a seat, you want the log to go through a tunnel here. Okay, so when I sew this up, it'll be like that, and I will do a much bigger loop. Make sure I'm in shot there. Again, it will be down here all the way along, and you know, as long as you can get your fish through there, job done on that. That's I'll keep it simple. as long as you get your full fist through there, because you want a decent sized pole going through the bottom if you're going to set this up in the bushcraft chair mode as opposed to a hammock seat. So bring it back when I've done that. Right, ladies and gents, when I sew the seams, both the top and the bottom ones, these are the ones that are going to be taking either the pole or the 25mm webbing. Like I say, you can push paracords through each loop if you're just making it up into a simple hammock seat. But just want to show you, because I know Rob McKenzie asked me this, is how do you sort of form the seams, if that makes sense. And this is what I've done. I've never had one of these fails. Like I say, all I've used so far on the zigzag stitch and the straight stitch down there, hemmed it up, is just normal sort of, you know, strong but cotton. None of these seams are going to be taking any stress as such. And the zigzag stitch, if there is any stretch when you're sitting it, this acts like, you know, almost like an Aztec of Constantina. So I've got one of my dogs coming out there. And in all, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the part that you want strongest, okay, because that is the seam that's going to take the most stress. So I've just sewed it just to get it in place so I can see what I'm doing. I've just run one normal cotton strip down there, okay. That's not gonna it's just to hold it in place, and then as you'll see later on, I'm going to change over the cotton and go to some extremely strong cotton. But here I've just not finished this one right up to the edge, which I'll go and do. But here we see, remember when I just turned that original one over, there it is there, okay. When you do that and then you do that, there is 1, 2, 3 pieces of cotton. That's making that extremely sorry, not cotton, material, and that's making that extremely strong, okay. If you just sew 1 to 1, that's the way I do it, okay. See that little lip there? So that's my turnover, okay. So there's 1, 2, 3, and as you'll see later on, I'm going to be going down there doing a zigzag stitch with some extremely strong cotton. Now the cottons that I use, and everybody's going to go, oh, I don't use that. Everybody's got their own different uses. This is Gutermann 100% polyester cotton. It's quite expensive, it's not cheap. It's a 500 metre reel, and believe me, if you're sewing on a machine, it's better going for the bigger reels. 100 metres wouldn't last you very long, certainly not on a project like this. But 100% polyester, the trade name is Gutermann, and it comes on different colour reels. You can have like olive green, this is a dark green, and the brown. That's what I'll now change over my machine to and do the zigzag stitching, which I'll show you in a moment. And obviously, when I said size that up so you can get your fish down there, I've always found that's just right there. And once this is sewn up as it is now, we'll find it's just from here, which is the width, is about 96 centimetres, so it's just under a metre. And obviously we started off the length bit, troops, was 150, just measured this now, and it is 126. Obviously that's where you've lost some of the length out, the 150. That is more than enough, long enough to support a man, and exactly the same size that I've been using and other people have been using. So it's a metre wide, okay, and 150 long, and by the time you turn it over, it's just over a metre. Just show you the top stitch. And so I just want to make sure I get that in shot. And as we can see, I've just tacked it in place with normal cotton. This is, well, 2 fingers wide. So I'm going to thread 25mm webbing down there, because this will be the top of the seat, okay. And as you can see, I've done that there, but come right to the edge, okay. There's again one piece of material, the other piece, and there. So there's going to be 2 zigzag stitches going down, securing that. And when I've done that, I'll bring it back later. But as I say, any stress points, I always use Gutermann's 100% polyester. If you've got any great cottons or whatever, I'm fully available for feedback, but it needs to go through a semi-industrial machine. I'm happy to hear of any stronger and, you know, or cheaper cotton that will get the job done. But that's what if you're going to use something that's going to take somebody's weight, is a safety issue. I've never had that fail on me. So bring it back when the thing's complete. Alright, ladies and gents, all sewn up with the zigzags. I'm on the top loop now, and that's the thin one. As you can see here, easy to do, threaded some 25mm webbing through it. You can put paracord through that if you want, and I'm sure that's going to hold. I've always done it this way. I've pulled it through, and what I'm going to do is make sure just I've got that the right size, which is going to be about there. Okay, just making sure all this is in shot. Again, I'm going to cut it there. and again, this might be the first video you watched, or others it will be sucking eggs. When you cut a piece of the old nylon strap in, get a lighter. All it needs to do is that, and just seal that edge. That's one I've previously done. Now, this is a point I want to know. If you sewed that up now and you push that through, it would work, but you're directly pulling, all the weight's directly pulling on the stitching. So when I put this on the machine, and just make sure I'm in shot here, I will pull it out of the way, and as you'll see in a few moments, okay, so I've sewed it and it's a circle all the way around. It's a circle, okay, so it'll be pulling on all the stitching, not just the first line. So as you can see, there's the inner bit, there's the outer bit. I will sew here and not sew it so it's like that, okay, because then it's pulling directly on the stitches, and that might make a bit more sense when you see it later on. So I'm going to do that with it, and sew that together, and then that's it finished. But I'll bring you back in a mo. Right, ladies and gents, again, with the strong Gutermann cotton that I showed you before, if you've got your own favourite brand, then use that, whatever you're happy with. But as you can see here, it's sewn in a loop, okay, and each one of these, so I've gone across a couple of times, then cut it, then gone the diagonal and then cut it, and then gone across and then cut it. So each one of these strip lines or stitch lines, if one goes, it's not attached to the other, and it won't all just come undone. So that's something I always do. It takes a little while longer, but it's just the way to go, yeah. So stitch line, cut it, stitch line, cut it, stitch line, cut it, and that's it. And I've gone all the way up there. So there's two lots, and just I'll put two separate lines there. So even if that one and that one goes, you've still got two stitch lines here. Don't sort of spare the cotton or, you know, just for purposes of trying to make things cheaply. If you're going to make it once, you know, whatever you do, do it properly, if that makes sense. That's an old soldier's sort of tale. And with that, what I normally do is just push that round. As I say, it's a complete circle. I normally just hide that inside there and pull this bit round. Okay, so this is the top of the bushcraft chair. Now if you're using it as a hammock, all you need to do, there's a little bit of paracord I cut there. I do use 550, the strong stuff. Okay, I've had paracord, you know, the Chinese stuff fail on me. Literally, there's nothing stopping you running it through that gap if you want, but if you're doing it, a little bit of webbing, and I'll normally do that, attach it to the cord. You can see it's just so much stronger, and all that weight in there is taken by a much greater surface area. So for the want of maybe sort of 3 or 4, about 6 inches of 25mm webbing, you're making your products a lot stronger and a lot safer. And then as that paracord, I just do various knots and then just click it on with a carabiner. You can do that with both sides. I'm going to show you the other side now. But remember, that's the longer one, because this is a bushcraft chair as opposed to a hammock seat. And how you can actually do the same as I've done there. So I'll bring you back in a moment. Right, ladies and gents, with the Gutermann cotton, the strong stuff, as you can see down here, with the ordinary cotton, remember I sewed that loop up so it was just in place, tacked in place. Disregard that as a tacking stitch. Using that as a guide, I've gone down twice this line, and I'm using the Zig-Zag Stitch, which again, if there's any stretch, it will just take up the slap and not start stripping away. So it's a Zig-Zag Stitch on this side of that, so there's 2 of them going all the way down. Okay, and I found that's more than sufficient. And as you'll see at the end here, as much as I'm in shot, I've gone backwards and forwards a few times just to make sure the cotton is locked off and it's a bit stronger, because that initially will take the actual strain. Now as you can see here, just in case it never wasn't apparent the first time, is there's one layer of material, there's the bit under there that I've turned over, and there's that one. So this stitching is going through 3 layers of material there, and I've always found that strong enough. And it also forms your hem, ladies and gents. I've done exactly the same at the top. I know that's a narrower slit, because this is the one that's going to take either your paracord, if you're setting it up as a seat, a hammock seat, or you know, the wooden bar going across the bottom if you want. So on that, ladies and gents, I'll try and throw some pictures in of the ones I made. I've made loads of them, none of them have failed so far, and I've been using the one that I made well over a year now, and it's still fully functional. So when you see the top, again, that's how it's sewed up and ready to go. You can attach a long piece of paracord to that and tie it to one tree, run some paracord through the bigger loop and it will just butt up against there, and then tie that to the other tree. So this is, you can either use it as a hammock seat between two trees or in the A-frame as a normal bushcraft chair. Way to go, really simple, easy project. I get asked by so many people, you know, how do you do that? You know, I haven't got time to make one for everybody that wants one. Done the tutorial because I'm being asked by people how I do things. Two things here: you can either get a machine and try and do it yourself, but there's a lot of people probably in one or two roads that you probably know, Auntie May or whoever, you know, Mrs. Miggins, that will quite happily watch this film, make you one of them, and feel very important because you've got a nice box of chocolates or whatever. And I say, not too expensive and not too hard to do for your first sewing up project. On that, ladies and gents, hope this has helped, and for the people that have asked me to do it, I hope that's what you know, that's more than enough for you to actually get on the machine and become a sewer-upper and save yourself a few bob. Take care.